What is up, guys? Anthony here, back with another Destiny Child video here on the channel. And in today's video, everyone, we are going to be discussing some of the units that are suggested to aim for onto your Ragna Break team for our upcoming events. We do have the Ragna Break Season 24 Loki event coming up soon in just a few days from now, after the March 31st maintenance. So I thought I'd discuss some of the units you guys should be preparing for the upcoming event. Of course, if we do have an official guide come out during the events, I'll be sure to upload a video discussing it as well. But here are some of the units you guys should be preparing. Now, before we do dive into the units, let's actually overview the expected skills for the Loki Ragna Break level 30 boss based on the Japan server. Of course, a huge thank you to the DCI Discord server and to Carl for posting these in the Discord as well. So we do have these skills up on the screen right now. As you all could see, Loki's Ragna Break level 30 boss skills on Japan, subject to change on global as always. Loki is a light type debuffer. As for the tap skill here, we do have attack 3 targets, priority the highest HP, inflict the bleed, 100 damage over time to the targets for 12 seconds long, as well as inflict skill gauge charge amount minus 30% to 2 targets, priority attackers for 2 turns, as well as grant stacks of tap skill defense plus to self. So this will counter Artemis a bit here on the tap. And moving on to the slide skill here, we do have attack 3 targets, priority attackers, inflict rend, 150 damage, and additional damage from 1 damage over time debuff on the target, twice to 3 targets, priority with damage over time debuff. Next up here, inflict silence to an attacker for 10 seconds long, and grant tap skill defense plus 80% to self for 2 turns. So yet again, more counters to Artemis. And here in comes the silence on the slide skill, in which makes Eve a good attacker for the event. Next up here, we do have the drive skill here, inflict damage renaissance. Also deal 10% of the damage done to target up to 2 enemies with lowest HP other than target to all targets for 25 seconds. Inflict graze, increase damage and duration of bleed to all targets for 14 seconds long. As for the leader skill here, debuff evasion plus 40%, debuff duration minus 60%, skill defense plus 70% to non-weakness attacks, and he does also nullify frenzy. So what we can gather here from the skills from the Japan boss of Loki, he does seem to counter Artemis a bit and the tap skill based attackers in general here based on his tap and slide. So he will have a large amount of defense here on those specific skills being granted to himself for a few turns here, as well as he does inflict silence onto an attacker, so the silence can be pretty annoying and affect your damage quite a bit here, as well as the tons of damage over time he does have in his kit. So now let's discuss some of the units that are suggested to be ran for this event. As we do have on screen from a previous Ragna Break, we do have the Ragna Break Season 18 guide, but most of these units are still suggested for the upcoming event. First up here, you'll definitely want to run a unit like Tiwaz on your team, as of course she is a staple unit for the light type Ragna Break events. We do have her kit being included with direct hit, gauge charge, charge amounts plus, weak final blow, as well as skill cooldown reduction. As for the double-edged sword units, we do have the suggestion of Neptune, but of course it is suggested to run Neza over Neptune, as she is the better unit. If you guys don't know who Neza is, I'll be sure to have an image of her up on the screen right now. She is the superior unit, and of course she is a dark type unit as well, so she will be very handy for your team. But if you guys don't happen to have Neza, then continue on with Neptune or Moonlight Werewolf, as well as Hermes, but make sure to run only one of these units. Next up here, we do have Crit Buffer. It's suggested as always to run Lupin, and if you don't happen to have Lupin, then run Pantheon. As for the aid category here, it's recommended to run Samil. Now, if you don't have Samil, you could also run Newbie Mona. Both units are amazing. And for some other offensive support options here, we do have Thisbe, Singad, Durandal, Maid Citri, as well as Rusalka. You'll probably stay towards the Thisbe and the Singa options for this category if you do have to run one of them. As for survival units, if you guys do lack the survivability during the raid, it's suggested to run a unit like Pomona. She will help with the debuffs quite a bit, and of course she does have a decent amount of healing. And if you don't happen to have Pomona or you are a beginner player, then it's suggested to run Mats here on your composition. As for the attacker units, of course, we will have the introduction of the new Eve. I'll be sure to show her on screen as well. Now, the Eve would be suggested to be ran over all of these attackers, as of course she does counter the silence on her slide skill, as well as being a slide based attacker unit, so she will be coming in pretty handy for this event against Loki. But of course, units with top priority would be as shown on screen, such as Moonlight Artemis, Ophois, Kafri, Kubaba, etc. And as you all could see based on the right hand side of the guide here, based on the notes, we do have attacker prioritization being the 6-hit slide over a 4-hit tap, the 4-hit tap over a 4-hit slide, and a 4-hit slide is about equal to a 3-hit tap, and a 3-hit tap over a 3-hit slide. Now, this raid will be pretty difficult for the tap based units, as of course he does have a ton of defense based on his slide skill as well as tap skill if they do go unchanged. But you could counter this a bit if you do happen to have the debuff evasion to avoid silence on your accessory equipment, and it would also help to have ignore defense damage on your weapon as well for the third option. Next up here, everyone, we do have the soul carta recommendations here shown on screen. As for your attackers, it's recommended to run the deep sea soul carta for your tapper units if you are running a unit like Artemis, Liberated Mats, or Elizabeth. And for the backup soul cartas, we do have the Starry Stage as well as the Demon Hunter Demon for a slider unit such as Ophois, Kefri, Kubaba, Starlight Saturn, and of course the new Eve. As for your supporter units, it's suggested to run Showtime on all of your units, excluding the attackers of course, so you guys could try and evade the debuffs as much as possible. And if you don't happen to have Showtime, then you can use any other HP or defense soul carta. Now, for the sample team compositions, of course ignore most of these, but we do have the top left one here that could come in handy for the upcoming event. The only change I would make to this composition would be to remove Neptune and sub in the Neza unit. Of course, she is a better double-edged sword unit. As for the attacker, of course Artemis could be changed out as needed if you are deciding to run the new Eve, as of course she will be coming in handy with the silence evasion on her slide skill. And if Artemis is dealing too low of damage, you could also run a unit like Ophois here. And of course, if you don't happen to have Samil, you could sub out Samil for the newbie Mona. And if you don't happen to have Tiwaz, you could sub in a unit like Thisbe or Senga. So that'll pretty much do it for my unit recommendations for the upcoming Ragna Break event. Of course, it's a bit tricky as we don't have the full-on guide graphic completed yet, but if I do happen to see it float around on the Destiny Child Reddit or the Discord servers, I'll be sure to post a video discussing it as well. So hopefully these tips did help you guys out in preparing for the upcoming event. And of course, if I did leave any tips out that you guys may have in mind, make sure to leave them in the comment section below, as of course I would appreciate it and tons of others would as well. But anyways, everyone, make sure to let me know in the comment section below if this guide was helpful to you at all and what kind of team composition you are targeting for the upcoming event. But before you go, everyone, make sure to leave a like on this video if you guys did enjoy today's Destiny Child guide. And of course, if you guys haven't yet done so already, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are interested in more Destiny Child content, and of course interested in other content such as Nikke, the Goddess of Victory. But with all of that being said, I'll see you all in the next Destiny Child video. As always, thank you all so much for watching.